Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Yep. they playing today? Oh, they're playing K-State right now. Yeah, well, now I understand what you were saying. Where is it?
Let's call this meeting to order. Garden City Community College Board of Trustees, January 2023 meeting. Welcome back to campus, everybody. I have a few comments to share with you. Just like I inferred, spring semester started yesterday. It's great to have students back on campus. They started with a presentation from Mr. Spencer Pasinger, a producer of the award-winning Netflix and CW series All-American, and that was in honor of Martin Luther King. There were several Garden City Community College students, faculty, and staff that attended, and the 5th and 6th grade classes from St. Dominic's. Mercer Gallery is pleased to host Garden City Community College class of 2015 alumni, Hannah Lindo, for the first exhibition of 2023. Her comprehensive show, In My Room, features new work after her graduate school experience. The exhibition will run from January 9th through February 10th inside Mercer Gallery. Lastly, we'd like to inform you that Garden City Community College is partnering with the American Red Cross to host a blood drive on Wednesday, February 8th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the back gym of the Dennis Perryman Athletic Complex. If you want to sign up for that, you can go to the American Red Cross website. So, all right. SGA report.
On the bottom there.
First one to thank you for letting us host the MLK Day event. And then I also want to introduce Esther Hernandez. She is our newest treasurer. So Tyrese moved on to a four-year institution, so she has taken over the treasurer role. So if you have any questions for her, I'll pass it off to her.
My name is Esther Hernandez. I'm an English major, and after this, I'm planning to go to Hayes. And my plan for after graduating is to become an editor. So first, we would like to thank you for letting us host the MLK event. We think it went really well. We got around 400 people in attendance. And next, we are going to be assisting College Health with the blood drive on February 8th. And we're going to start off by recruiting students and other people to donate or volunteer.
Great. Thank you for doing the Martin Luther King celebration. I know it takes a lot of work by the time you find a speaker that you want, get all the arrangements made. It was amazing. You had such a good week, had such a good turnout, and it was because of your efforts. So,
were there any comments that you want to share from the students? Did you notice anything?
A few comments we had were just that they were really thankful that he was able to come out and they really connected with him. I know for fact, our athletes really commented on how they learned a lot from him. And then just he spent so much time with them. And so I think that was the best part for them, was just getting able to speak to him on a one-on-one level. So yeah, that was the main comments from students, just they were really grateful. So yeah.
Great. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for stepping up to your new position.
Introduction of new employees.
None tonight.
None. All right, moving on, we're on agenda item number 2, the consent agenda. I would like to pull item A to make a few corrections to the minutes.
if there are no others to be pulled, I move that we accept the consent item agenda B, B1, B2, C, C1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items B and C. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. On page 7 in
If it's the same thing I have marked.
on this record about the motion and the vote, it should be 5-1 instead of 5-0. Near the bottom of page 10. Okay,
The names for the ayes and nays were correct, but the number count at the bottom was just incorrect.
yep. And then the second correction is on page 10. I would recommend that we strike the second sentence that says trustees discussed how to combat this issue. And just leave that sentence out. Any other comments, thoughts? Okay, I will insert a motion to approve item A with the corrections.
I will second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve item A with corrections. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Agenda item number 3, organization of new officers for 2023. Board members, I suggest that, just as we have done in the past, that we elect a chairman and a vice chairman separately, and then the rest of the positions and appointments we can group. Okay, any suggestions or other thoughts about the procedure? Okay. We'll start with chairman then. I open the floor for nominations.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Leonard Hitz for chairman. I know that in the past, we've had a kind of mixture of board members, but I think in the last year, we've become a very cohesive team. And I think Leonard's played a big part of that.
I appreciate that he has spent this year getting additional experience as vice chair to better prepare for that position.
All right. Hearing no other nominations, we'll close nominations. Leonard, is there anything you'd like to say?
If I'm elected, I'll serve.
All right, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of Mr. Leonard Hitz as chairman, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, carried. Would you like to take over?
You can finish this. Why don't you finish this meeting out, Marilyn, and I'll take over at the next meeting.
Okay. All right, I would entertain nominations for vice chair.
Madam Chair, I nominate, Shanda Smith. Is that okay?
You beat me to it.
Oh,
Are you
I
guys,
thought she was gonna kick me if I didn't get it out.
Oh,
I feel like I'm getting teamed up on here.
yeah. No, I just want to say that, I was going to nominate Shanda because I believe that she has a lot of expertise, a lot of knowledge that is vital to preparing this board, maturing this board. It's my firm belief that we need to have a policy that kind of puts this into motion, where the vice chair takes over from the chair. I see the vice chair position as a learning position, but also as a leadership position that is trained to step into that position. So if something happened to the chairman, you need somebody that can step in and do it. And I don't discount anybody on this board of having that ability, but I think Shanda would be a good leader in the situation if the chairman gets killed in a car wreck or sick or whatever.
Have to be so
That's
morbid.
why I would support Beth's nomination for Shanda for vice chair.
Any other nominations? All right, nominations are closed. Let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of Ms. Shanda as vice chair, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Welcome, chairman and vice chair. All right. Clerk of the court has historically been President Ruda. The job of the clerk is mostly parliamentarian, making sure that we follow Robert's rules. I recommend that we continue his position. Does anybody have any other ideas or comments or thoughts?
I think that's the right move.
Okay. All those in favor of retaining President Ruda as the clerk, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. KACCT representative historically has been our own Beth Tedrow. I recommend that we allow her to continue in that position. Does anybody have any other thoughts?
And you want to continue that.
Yes, I would like to, as long as Ryan will let me ride with him, clear across the state.
If she's willing to do it, I am willing to agree.
I think that's a good choice.
Okay. We have a consensus of the board to retain Beth Tedrow as the KACCT representative. Economic Development Representative has been Mr. David Rupp. Are you okay with continuing? Okay. Mr. Rupp said that he would continue. Does anybody have any other nominations or objections?
I support David in that. I think that he does an excellent job at it. I have sat here for 3 years and I have watched David mature over those years. As all of us, when you start into these positions, we're a little nervous, we're a little wondering what's going on, and it takes you a while to get into the groove. But I think David does a great job, not only on the economic development, but also as a representative for the Joint Cluster Athletics Association. So I support David wholeheartedly in this position.
Only other thing I would add is just that the Finney County Economic Development Board had submitted their recommendation to retain Dave when we make appointments as well, so.
So it seems like you have double blessings. There you go.
I just have to get reelected and serve a 3-year term.
Okay, well, I think this board supports you. It's the consensus of the board, yes,
Yes.
Yes.
to retain Mr. Dave Rupp as Economic Development Corporation representative, and if you could pass on to the EcoDevo board that we support you as well. All right, the next set of appointments are similar to what we've had in the past. I suggest that we approve Secretary of the Board, Deputy Clerk, College Treasurer, Designated Agent for Keepers, and the alternate designated agent for keepers as presented. They're the same as last year.
I would second that.
Yes.
Okay. Consensus is to retain A, B, C, D, E. And then item F is the endowment representative. Shanda, are you willing to continue?
Unless somebody else wants to do my donor list for this year's auction, I think I'm ready. Okay.
Feel comfortable with both positions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds like you have double blessings also. Okay. It's the consensus of the board, yes?
Yes.
To retain Shanda as designated endowment representative. And then we're back to Mr. David Rupp, Brunkbuster Athletic Association representative.
it was brought up last night at the BAA meeting, and we all gave him a 100% endorsement, so we'd like to keep it.
Board members, any,
Are you willing to continue?
Yes.
Are you, okay?
Good choice.
okay,
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
that's okay. It's,
Watching the game.
it's,
I was thinking about it.
it's a consensus of the board to retain Mr. David Rupp as Brunkbuster Athletic Association representative. Terrific. Thank you, guys. All right, moving on. We have depositor designations. And I am suggesting that we retain Commerce Bank as the primary depositor. But I will let Dr. Ruda explain some not investigations, but looking at renewing or new designations for that particular position.
So over the course of the next month, our intent is to be able to take banking services out for requests for proposals. So tonight, we're asking that we continue with Commerce Bank as a primary depositor. As the RFPs are received back in and evaluated and a decision is made, then we would bring a decision back to you. If that were to change, if Commerce is retained, then obviously there's no need for any change in board action. But at this point there, we just would ask that we continue with Commerce Bank as the primary depositor. And then we will bring back further conversation and discussion for the board to consider following the RFP.
Are there any other banks that have expressed the desire to gain that account?
Several. Yeah, and I think, just in our conversations, this is a professional service, no different than other professional services that we've taken out for bid. Banking services have not been out for bid. Doesn't mean that Commerce is doing a bad job. I think it's just diligence on being able to make sure that all local banks and financial institutions have an opportunity to bid on it. So Carla has put considerable amount of work into developing the RFP and working with other institutions who've done similar practices. And again, the intent is over the course of the next month to be able to send that out. There's evaluated criteria that's tied to this, and then our recommendation would come before the board once we receive those requests back.
I notice on here you have American State Bank, which is no longer in service. It should be Equity Bank.
I wasn't sure, we had Equity Bank, I wasn't sure which one had changed.
American State Bank.
Okay.
So
James.
just cross it off.
Yeah. It's now under Equity.
Mhm.
Since the market has, rebounded a little bit, we, are putting our monies out for bid on our CDs. So we tried to list all of the local banks that we send that information to, so we have the ability for them to be awarded the highest interest rate.
So we are letting the other banks bid on the depositories if they interest in probably go with one that's willing. to
On our
provide us with
investments,
this.
yes, our certificates of deposit.
Just hope we get a bank that's gonna stay around for a while and not change names every week.
Control what we could control. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I do notice that we have ATMs from Green Bank,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah, which is a new name. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll just want to make sure in the motion, in the motion that's made on the other depositories that we include Equity.
It's,
we-
yeah, it's in
Yeah,
there.
it's-
Yep.
that's fine.
Do we need to follow state statute like the county and the city, having it within local banks in our county? I know that
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
the county has, a state statute that says that their depositories has to be local. A bank that has a local branch. Do we fall under that statute too?
Local meaning tax base, local meaning,
Well, it has a local branch, like Commerce has one here, but their main office somewhere else.
That's a
Right.
state statute.
I just happened to watch the commission meeting this morning, so.
You know, that's been common practice. I've never, I can't answer specifically to that, but I can look it up. I think traditionally we have, like I said, that's common practice. But it could be, a basic exception. I don't
I don't recall seeing that in statute for community colleges.
All right, trustees, let's go back and approve the primary depositor. So I'll make a motion that we retain Commerce Bank.
Second,
We have a motion and a second to retain Commerce Bank as our primary depositor. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Great. And then, as listed in our packet here, the other depositors that may be utilized for 2023. Any objections or comments?
America and Equity are the same bank now?
yes.
Okay. That's what I put down, but I wasn't sure.
And these are all potential, not necessarily everyone we are currently using, but all those that
Could be
you
considered.
could take out for bid should they have the best CD rate or whatnot. Okay.
We have all those.
I make a motion that we approve the list of depositors for potential deposits in 2023 as listed.
I second that motion.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the authorized signatures. Those are unchanged from last year, correct?
Correct.
It's my recommendation that we retain the same authorized signatures. Any comments or thoughts? Okay, looks like consensus of the board is to retain the same authorized signatures as listed. All right, last item is our college attorney, Mr. Kitsky. He has 1 year plus a few months, so I recommend that we retain Mr. Kitsky, as he's just
I think it would
doing
serve
good
us
and
to-
learning the job.
It would serve us to retain him instead of trying to start over with somebody new.
Exactly. Agreed.
Do you have any comments from Dr. Ruda? Any problems?
No, he's been extremely responsive. Been very happy there with the work. I think it does serve for continuity. We have taken it out for bid this past year, but I don't know that it's necessarily services that we want to rotate around on an annual basis there either. But no, the responsiveness and professionalism have been very, very high from Mr. Kitsky.
I remember the last time it wasn't easy to find somebody with the fit qualifications.
Accurate. We had three that responded to the request for qualifications. Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve Mr. Kitsky as our college attorney for 2023.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. We are on agenda item number 4, the confirmation of monitoring reports. We start on page 33. I'll just review these with you. The first one is the general executive constraints, number 7. The president shall not allow for purchases between 10,000 and 50,000 without first giving consideration to local Finney County businesses with a maximum of 10% premium. The purchases directed by grant funds are excluded from that. The interpretation is on page 34. I'll let you take a few minutes to review that.
Madam Chair, did we increase it there to 149,000? Do we need that in that number 7?
So
The 25 to 149?
it's sort of confusing. This is from the asset protection
That's
policy.
2020. I know we did that last year.
So that one is on page 38,
Okay.
of which we're going to talk about tonight too.
I didn't know if it needed to be in that number 7. So it wouldn't be confusing.
Here. No.
One-
It's the same thing, confusing.
No, it has the same language as number 7 has. It just has different numbers.
So one says 149,000, and then in the purchases, 100,000, 149,999. I think the attempt is to be taking it up to 150,000, and we designated it $149,999.
Well, this 149,000 comes, because isn't that what we upped it to what he could spend without us?
Correct. I just believe number 7 should have those figures in
No,
it too,
149%.
instead of the 10,000 and 50,000.
I recommend board that, so we're just approving the interpretation from Dr. Ruda, but next month we'll talk about the language of the policy, and at that time we can change it if you want to, but just to clarify, general executive constraint number 7 is really about that we want our president to use local businesses if the price falls within a 10% premium. Okay, asset protection on page 38 is what we approved this past year when we increased the ability for the president to make higher purchases. So it's kind of 2 different things, but they are related. I agree.
Yeah.
So,
This is about it being local that we're looking at on page 34.
Correct. correct.
Same time, the interpretation does talk about the local business.
So we'll get into the wording of that if that needs anything on next month's review of that. So in the next 30 days, put some thought into how we can improve that.
I think it's my assumption that when you are taking bids out, no matter what you're bidding, that you're looking at local first. So.
Correct.
Right. Right. So.
I mean, it's not prohibited, it's prohibited to give preference.
Okay. Do you have any other content you'd like to add? No?
No, not on this particular one.
Okay.
I feel like the president's done a good job trying to source locally where he can, and we've seen it where we put it out locally and not got bids back. So, I believe anywhere where we're short on getting more local bids is because they don't want to bid on it, not because they were given the opportunity. So I feel like the president has done a good job with his role of putting that opportunity out there available for bid.
I agree with you, and then I would just add that there are policies that also reflect the preference for local businesses to, as other people in the campus select purchases. So I think it's a reflection of a longstanding policy and it works well. All right, so let's move on. Page 35. Policy is on information and advice. It's all 5 of those points, and then the president's interpretation is starting on page 36.
I just don't think we've had any conflict with any of this. I think we've always been informed and kept informed and never felt like we had anything in the dark. Again, that is support of the president doing the job the way he should do it.
I think his weekly emails are helpful
Oh, yeah.
and that. And then was responsive when we changed meeting dates to make sure we could get more accurate information, so. Yeah, there's been less question marks.
Right, and I would just point out for the public's, information, number 3, the president shall not fail to advise if the board is not in compliance with its own policies on governance process, the board-president relationship, particularly in the case of board behavior. And his interpretation is that there has not been any incidents of that occurrence. And then number 5, the president shall not fail to deal with the board as a whole, except when fulfilling or responding to individuals. And his interpretation again reflects that we as a board have responded and interacted as a whole. So. Moving on, asset protection. And that is our last one. And it is 1 through 4, 6 through 7. It's pretty amazing when you look at the interpretation on page 39 of all of the insurance policies that somebody has to keep track of. Carla. President shall not fail to insure against property and casualty losses or against liability losses to board members, staff, or the organization itself. And his interpretation is pretty detailed in the insurance coverages for the different entities within the campus, how they arrive at those values. There's probably some super formula out there that, yeah. It does that. Number 2, the college maintains a treasurer's bond on the vice president, CFO. And that is listed there in black and white. Number 3, the president shall not fail to provide proper oversight of the physical plant. And on page 41, listed the campus improvements over this past year. The next one, number 4, the president shall not unnecessarily expose the organization, board, or staff to claims of liability. And that's, in his interpretation, he talks about reviewing with college council, and consulting with Kansas Association of School Boards, talking with the cabinet. All of those things help to put together their policies to protect the organization. The president shall not receive, process, or disperse funds under controls that are insufficient to meet the auditor's standards. That seems pretty self-explanatory. Number 7, the president shall not acquire or dispose of assets valued over $150,000. And the interpretation is listed on page 43. Thoughts, questions, comments?
The last sentence on page 43 should be in 2021.
Oh, very good.
So hand over 150. That was a two-third. Sorry about that. Yeah, why'd you do that? I spilled my water yesterday at the Martin Luther King, so that was sitting next to me, so she was the easy one.
She even told the guy that came to clean it up that it was my fault.
There are options out on all of the vehicles and all that we were selling out there. They're individual deals and they won't come into any question here under the value of 50,000. How well does that come off?
We netted around $30,000.
I'm sorry?
We raised around $30,000.
Okay.
More than we could get on an auction.
Yeah,
Local auction.
yeah.
They
we
each
took
sold.
off, and it didn't cost us anything. The nice thing about that is the producer pays all the fees.
You got rid of some junk vehicles.
Yeah, yeah. Good.
I can tell you that.
Well used, not junk, well used.
Very well.
Well, they were, in reality, they were very well
Yeah.
used.
Yeah.
The bus has been all over the world.
All right. Board members, I suggest that we accept these monitoring reports as presented.
So, are you making a motion?
I am not, I'm just
I will
asking
make-
for consensus.
I will second that motion.
Oh, we're gonna do a
Well,
motion.
if
Oh.
Marilyn wants
I
a
thought you did.
consensus, so I will join the consensus.
I will join the consensus.
I'm in.
Okay, I agree. Thank you very much. All right. We do not have any monitoring reports to review from last month, but I do have some things I'd like to visit with you about. I mentioned that I was going to bring a few new items for our self-monthly board assessment. So I would just entertain a conversation about my items here and see what the will of the board is in regards of going forward. The first seven items are the same as the current monthly self-assessment. Starting with number 8, those are some new ones that I thought of. Trying to think of different directions that we could focus on. Think of some of the things that we commented that we wanted to improve on. Looking at some items from ACCT, from Pam Fisher.
I like the new challenges.
It never hurts to have more things to evaluate ourselves. We're going to continue to improve.
I feel like number 5 and 11 are similar, yeah, because listening intently and trying to understand perspectives is part of a respectful conversation to me. So I like the language, but maybe we don't make that a separate question and make that part of having respectful conversations. Combine them in some way.
Is this something that we need everybody to take home and think about it for a little while and redo this evaluation form after the next meeting?
I feel like we should be able to come to a consensus tonight and give it a try next month. I mean, it's under our control. So if we do it 2 months and that's not what's working for us, but
Combine 5 and 11 then?
to me, it makes sense. They kind of become redundant. They're all part of respectful conversation in my mind. If somebody disagrees, I understand that too. I feel like it does a good job of elaborating what we mean by respectful conversations, but I do feel it's a part of it.
And it's my pleasure that you can take out some of those on the top, or you can substitute. This is not you have to include everything type. deal.
Okay.
I like the idea of emphasizing community linkage. I think that's very important for us. Student success is also very important for us, particularly when it comes to HLC.
I ran this by President Ruda, and his only correction was to substitute the word ownership linkage instead of community linkage. I got community from ACCT book, but in our policy governance, it's ownership. So I'll do whatever you guys like, but
I like that idea.
change it.
To ownership.
Ownership
linkage. That's the terminology we use.
Well, it designates who really owns it. Be part of the community and not an owner.
I mean, ownership linkage is how we have it listed on our agenda, so that would. Make sense.
All right. In looking at number 12 and 13, I was nervous that they were a little broad, and it would be hard to say, yes, we did that, or no, we didn't, or how much did we do that? Tell me your thoughts about that.
I wondered about that on those specifically and the continuous HLC compliance, that we would need some portion. I mean, we do have an ownership linkage, for example, but what are we ongoing now that HLC is done? What are we doing consistently right now to maintain that? We don't have a process in place for that. So I think it would be great to put that in at some point, but I think we need the process first of how we check into where we stand on that.
I don't think Mark's ever gonna let us forget very really what we need to be doing.
I mean, because we touch base with the strategic plan, but it's not a monthly thing. And that's part of our HLC commitment. So
I think the compliance is part of our monthly.
and that's something after every meeting. I'm trying to think of examples through meetings where we weren't focused on HLC tonight, for example. I mean, other than I guess our kind of standard monthly reviews of
Policy
and
governance.
stuff,
Mhm.
how,
So the intention was that HLC is not dropped. that
right,
it-
Correct.
Okay.
It's a continuous process.
Mhm.
And I think that's
Mark, I didn't
where.
entertain, I was just gonna say, I'll entertain any comments on your part.
I would think Mark keeps us comprised. If something hits the fan, he's gonna let us know, but it's a continuous thing. I think that's where the college fell apart before was all of a sudden it was time for HLC, so let's worry about it a little. I
Yeah.
like the continuous approach to it.
I like the idea that, like I says, and it talks about strategic plan. We have set times of year that we really touch base with the strategic plan, but not on a monthly basis. So if we're going to evaluate this monthly, what is the standard we're looking for to say that we met continuous HLC compliance and strategic plan? How are we touching base with that at some point every month so that we can fairly evaluate whether we're doing it good or not?
Do we need a report from Mark every month on what he's continually?
No,
No,
Yeah, I know he's talked about in conversations with me about, doing the little things now, so when it comes time for the next evaluation or that, it's all ready.
yeah, I think the merit behind it, in my opinion, there is that you don't lose focus. Even though the accreditation visit's behind us, doesn't mean that we're still not focused on how it is that you as a board are leading and following, accreditation standards. So I do think that, policy review, some of the things that are being done monthly, are a checkpoint for accreditation purposes, for alignment to accreditation standards. The one thought or suggestion I have there, though, because you're right, I mean, on strategic planning, it's not every month that we necessarily talk about it, is do you leave latitude or a place there just to be able to list how the board, so instead of just evaluating on a Likert scale, 1 to 5, how well did we do? Do you leave it more open-ended to say, how did we comply with accreditation standards, or was there anything discussed that aligned to strategic plan?
It
You
just
know,
feels so broad. It feels like it'd just be really easy to go, oh yeah, we talked about the STEM building. That was part of the strategic plan. Yeah, we did our job. But did we? How do we define, did we really
Yeah,
touch HLC compliance in a deliberate way? How
mhm.
did we do it in a deliberate way? Not by chance that was the conversation that night.
Mhm.
We need a month or two in there where Mark comes and provides training on HLC or a report or something. I know we did it monthly or almost every month, giving us ideas and stuff. That was coming up, but there's still
If I had,
this amount of work that I don't have no clue about HLC.
I think we as a board need to set 12 goals. Take 12 things, 12 components out of compliance, and every month, okay. Did we do this one? Okay, next month we evaluate the, I don't know.
if I had, maybe a month to think about it, I think we could maybe come up with some sort of a defined checklist that would help target some of those things. I think the point of accreditation and of continuous improvement is that it is integrated into the institution in such a way that you don't necessarily have to consciously think, okay, now it's time for HLC. So I was making a little list over here just as you all were talking and thinking. So it's absolutely the strategic plan. Other things that come to you that are part of that continuous are the program and department review reports. Those 5 minutes from that's part of it. Ensuring that we have a budget that helps us. That's certainly part of it. So are the efforts you all take to make sure you are attending trainings and the work with the ACCT liaison, all those things, those are absolutely a part of it. So it really is, so is policy governance. I think when we were writing the assurance argument, that was one of the most important things, because those are so clearly defined and documented that you've set an expectation and you require data and evidence in order to let us pass, right? To let us move on. So there are definable things that are already integrated into the board's practices. I think it's almost a conscious awareness of, like, I know that this, these monitoring reports connect to HLC. I know that getting the department and program review reports, that is a meaningful part of kind of the operational life cycle of the institution and continuous improvement. If you gave me a month, I could probably come up with something that articulates it more or makes it clearer or something, but
I like the idea. It's hard for me to put a measure on this right here. Did we meet it? Yes or no? I mean, other than the standard stuff that's always been on our agenda, it doesn't feel like a measurable goal to me as it is. So I'm trying to figure out how to put a measure to it, or
From what Mark's saying, would we really need to have that on our evaluation number?
and that may be, I mean, if you can't measure it, it shouldn't be a goal, silly. I mean, that's something
That's not our
differently
evaluation.
entirely. So I guess for now, I would think, while we always need to keep that in mind, I don't know if that's really a measurable thing to put a yes or a no. I mean, because technically every agenda is a yes to that, just by its nature.
Yeah, and I think the other aspect of this area is it's not about just checking a box.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel confident that we fell within our responsibilities. It's not just checking a box. Yes, we talked about strategic plan. I think to your point, it's more encompassing. But we have to make sure that we keep it at the surface and the forefront of what it is we're talking about. So how do we do that? And I think that's the larger conversation.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna do it, I want it to have teeth and
Mhm.
mean something.
Mhm.
So that's,
Considering everything, though, the evaluation is part of the HLC
yeah,
itself. And we're evaluating ourselves every month. So.
Maybe
that's-
it's,
Yeah.
maybe it's something like
Yeah.
we as a group at the end of the meeting say, here's the things that we talked about that reflect back to HLC. And we just do a little conversation of
Mhm.
where we're at and where we're going.
Mhm.
or maybe that's also a place for suggestions. What part of HLC compliance or strategic plan have we not addressed recently and need to have a discussion around? It's been so long since the strategic plan. Next month, we need an update on where we stand on the STEM building part, or, and make sure is that a room for where we could do better every month for us as trustees to put down and take that topic as a discussion for the next month's meeting.
I'm afraid if it's not listed some way, it will go under the table. And
I-
we'll forget.
I do think there is merit to having it brought in some way to the surface, but also taking some time to ensure that, you know, that's brought forward in a way that is meaningful, but also doesn't generate a mountain of additional reporting, you know?
Correct.
We wouldn't want to, I wouldn't want to, speaking for myself, I wouldn't want to live in a world where we, you know, end up with the second level of monitoring reports that are HLC specific. I think there's a way to take some of the existing processes for board oversight and tie that in a way that's meaningful, but it might
Mhm.
take me some collaborative brainstorming time to get there. I do think it's worth keeping at the surface, understanding that, you know, that it's not just about ensuring that we have a purchasing policy and we follow that, that is an expectation of our accrediting body, not just our taxpayers but it's our accrediting body, that also links to somewhere far beyond this room. So that's an admirable thing. The question of how, I think, is worth taking some time on.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess just as Mark was talking, I mean, I think even being able to list out as, I mean, it's not a check, it's not a point of just checking off what it is we do. But if we can come up with a list, I mean, it's fiscal oversight, it's review of policies, it's connecting with owners, you know, you establish a budget. So I think there's a way that we could list, here are the elements that fall underneath board responsibilities. But being able to have that as a reference point there within the evaluation of were any of these items part of what the board discussed, approved, reviewed as part of the meetings, which I think can lead into a piece of the evaluative aspect of it there. Because I do hesitate to think that we don't have some way of ensuring that there is a constant understanding of what responsibilities of the board and the oversight and how it is that we're evaluating board effectiveness as a tool of measure. What that tool is, we can kind of put our heads together, maybe come back with some options there for next week or next month for
I would agree with
further
that.
consideration.
And we'll have a final report. Can't remember off the top of my head if it's the end of February, the last Fed. And that report will come with also recommendations for all parts of it, but I would assume also the board. And so
Mhm.
I think it's keeping the conversation active about how we go about doing that, ensuring that board oversight is linked in a way that I also wrote down here, plain speak. Some of the, even some of the policy governance language is really, it's written at a very formal policy level. And if there's and so it's the same with HLC criteria. And if there's a way to make these very formal processes link in a way of very plain language for how that is connecting, that'd probably be a good thing. Again, I think it's a how. I agree. Shut up.
It almost sounds like that one topic could be a 1-page or 2-page evaluation on its own. Then maybe we could do that once or twice a year in our retreats, or do it instead of the monthly evaluation.
Okay. So we could do this. Let's start from the top. Do you want to keep numbers 1 through 7?
Well, if we're adding 12 and 13, focusing on student success and community linkage.
So yes.
I'm just trying to make sure we cover everything without being redundant.
How about number 9? Do you feel like that needs to be in there? Let's do one at a time. How's that?
I would say it's a lesser value to me. I like 8 a lot. Building a positive image of college. All about what the community thinks.
I'd say 9 does not need to be in there because, again, parliamentary procedure varies depending on the size of the board and what we do, If it was going strictly by that, I don't think we would have the conversations that we're having right now. One member wouldn't have to talk more than once or twice. So. And our clerk over there would tell us we're not.
Correct.
So, and I agree too. I just pulled it from ACCT. I think the business of conducting a meeting falls to the responsibility of the chairperson and the clerk. So we could say that that's part of number 7 as well. Number 10, I think we'll defer. We'll table that one and see if we can come up with something different.
I like the idea of it. I just want to make sure we do it justice if we're gonna do it.
Oh, for
Do
sure.
it right.
Yeah. Yeah, it needs to be meaningful. Number 11, we can just, integrate into number 5. And then number 12 or 13, I didn't know if you wanted both of them or just one of them. It's just the will of the board. Both of those are goals that we had set for ourselves after our last assessment.
I like them both in there. Going back to number 9, could we just put, at the end of number 7, following parliamentary procedure or something mentioning parliamentary procedure in number 7? Because there are times when we get off base and have to be pulled back on.
We can.
That's what I would do. I would just use the following parliamentary procedure at the end of that.
Okay. Any other ideas? Last comments? I will rewrite this and bring it back to the next meeting. How would that be?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Agenda item number 5. Do we have any open comments? Jody, thank you. All right, President's report.
All right, hang with me. Several things. Just because we've been off for Christmas break doesn't mean we haven't had things going on here. I did want to just draw attention this week. We are launching publicly the President Scholarship Initiative. This is an initiative there that is goal-driven with the goal of increasing endowed scholarships at the $10,000 rate by 50 over the course of this year. We are doing a social media blitz there within each of our service area communities. We've identified students from each of the communities that will be highlighted as far as the benefits they've received, from receiving scholarships and, try to be able to put, names that tie into those communities. We've also, over the course of this fall semester, been just embarking on a very silent, phase in of this initiative. And, to date, we have secured 8, scholarships, as part of this initiative. So as we head into, the public phase of this, we're not starting at zero. We've made, headway on this particular initiative, and we'll continue to keep you apprised as we move forward. This, past fall, I did want to highlight, we have 16 intercollegiate athletic teams. This fall, 12 of the 16 teams had a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher. And individually, 167 students had a 3.0 or higher. And so I think it's important to be able to highlight student success, and I want to give credit where it's due as far as to the coaches, the faculty, the advisors who ensure that we are achieving student success. So I'm very proud of the work on that end. This past December, we did work with the Kansas Department of Commerce and secured tax credits. We have $150,000 of tax credits at the 50% rate, which will go towards expenses for the Fine Arts Building. Will go towards being able to do some upgrades on lighting, sound, curtains, as well as being able to utilize a portion of these funds that can go towards offsetting the cost for a theater instructor and scholarships for theater, as we start to have discussions administratively about bringing theater back as a program here at Garden City Community College. So we have 150,000 in tax credits, and we have through December of 2023 to secure and sell those tax credits. Did have just a short update on the STEM Success Center. We have received all equipment for the STEM Success Center. We had a few elements, heating elements that were back ordered and not on site. Everything is on site there now. They've started to frame out and install HVAC and ductwork within the building. And from the last conversations we've had with Dick Construction, we're on track with the timeline there of fall 23 completion. The other component of that there is that yesterday, Cabinet and the STEM grant staff met with Senator Marshall. He was on campus and came to talk about what's being done with the federal grant on STEM. I wanted to learn a little bit more about the programs. And we also did a brief tour of the STEM building site and walked him through what will be incorporated into that building as part of this. Classes started yesterday, and as SGA and Dr. Douglas had mentioned, had a great start to activities with Martin Luther King speaker. I thought really the connection and the message that he had was well received, and I know the students have really appreciated a lot of what he had to say there, and it had some good kind of hit home there for, I think, a lot of our students there on what Spencer Pasinger has gone through and how it really relates to a lot of the things that they're going through as well. Last few items that I did want to talk about, and I had mentioned in the last memo to the board about some work that has been done by Jody and I on really starting to research and look at a new way of doing board agendas, starting to create some efficiencies in how it is that we do things. The process that we utilize right now, and I use we very carefully because it is very cumbersome on Jody. So it's not really a we because she is pulling everything together. But it's a very cumbersome process there to be able to take the information that is compiled into the agenda and presented to you for the agenda it's a very time staking process that incorporates IT and our marketing department to be able to get it onto the web, to get it out to our media. So we've been having some conversations with other colleges about what are the processes that they use. Are there other software packages that they utilize to be able to create efficiencies? And have came across and had a demo this past week with a company called Board Docs. And this is a company, and I would like to be able to have input and some conversation from the board as we go forward, really just looking at how it is that we create efficiencies, but also be able to enhance how it is that we're engaging with stakeholders, how it is that we get information conveyed in a more timely fashion, but also streamlining our processes there to where as minutes are being taken, as votes are being taken at the board meeting, we're able to incorporate that into this platform to where as decisions are being made, as votes are being counted, it can be taken in the minutes within the platform, and then it is saved to create a more timely transaction of what is occurring at the board. You know, in our conversations and really just in talking through the initial conversation with the company, I believe that there is a tremendous benefit that comes from this. It is not just about agendas, but we're able to create templates for agendas. We're able to create templates for meeting minutes. We could be able to do a real-time transaction on votes. I think a lot of the other aspects that really come from this area is that there is a community interface to where, similar to what we have right now, for community to be able to share comments and opinions to the board. This interface provides a very structured and seamless system that helps to be able to have a little bit more interaction for the community back to the board. The other components, that really, I think, have a strong indicator of efficiencies is this also provides a mechanism for internal governance committees to be able to utilize this. So we're talking about college council or any of our internal committees that we have on campus, that there would be standardized templates for agendas, minutes, but then it is also housed and the minutes are available on the board's page for public transparency, for the board to be able to see the minutes that are occurring. But there's a more seamless process that occurs through this particular software. So, not only are we creating efficiencies for how it is that we're collecting and compiling board information and the agenda, but there's also capabilities for internal governance committees to utilize this and have a more timely way of posting minutes and having it facing towards the public on what it is that's occurring within the internal governance committees. The only other thing that I would say on this there too, just a feature that I think has importance and relevance is right now, if there are individuals that are requesting that we send out the board agenda to them in advance, that's a manual tracking that we're having to do to send the board packets and the agendas out to them. This mechanism allows for individuals, whether it be media, whether it be individuals that want to be kept informed of the board minutes and the meetings and the agendas as they're posted, allows them to be able to go in and enter their information automatically and receive that information electronically as soon as it is published to the web. So, I think again, it's creating some efficiencies and removing some of the human error that can occur by not sending out agendas as requested or meeting minutes as requested. This streamlines that process. So, I'm really just kind of bringing this to the forefront. I know I'd included a little bit more description of it there in the last week's memo for you to look at. don't need action on this here tonight. I just merely wanted to be able to convey some of the things that we're looking at and how we're trying to continually improve our processes going forward, and would welcome any input as you have time to digest this information. I'll continue to kind of bring it forward there as we know more about this particular software as well. We've, mhm.
I was just gonna ask a question. Will this be, will we be back to laptops and
So,
between votes by, no,
no, but I'm glad you brought that up there. So the other great feature about this area is that it can be accessed and utilized. However, it can be accessed using smartphones. If you have personal devices, if you have computers, it's able to be accessed. But the other nice feature about this area is that each of you individually would be able to, if you wanted to electronically, go in and be able to make comments and write down comments on your phone, on your computer, whatever it is that you're using. And that is stored strictly for you as a user. So that is a private function that has, kind of reminders for you or notes that you're scratching in there during the meetings that you can be able to recall and have that information much more available to you. The other aspect there that is very user friendly and creates some benefits is that it has a searchable feature. So many times, auditors will ask, when did the board approve this particular purchase? Well, now, we can go through, it's somewhat of a manual process. We can go out and do a search feature on our internet right now. But this is much more consolidated and has, really real-time search features that allow for us to pull it up there within the cloud hosted environment that this software has. So, again, I think there are ways to enhance and improve what it is that we're doing, but also take out some of the time that's involved in being able to put agendas together. So I think the place where we left it at with the company is that we wanted to be able to come and start having some conversations and get input, see if there's other questions that we need to be asking on features. We also need to bring IT into the mix, because just because a company says that, yes, this does integrate very easily, does not mean that IT agrees with that fact, correct? Get a lot of lip service sometimes from companies that say, yes, it's easy to integrate, but we're going to take our IT's word on what that means.
to these phones.
Yes. Yeah. So again, it's a very preliminary conversation. But please look through the attachments there in the memos, and then we can continue to have conversations here over the next few months on questions and thoughts that you may have as we go forward. Last few items, similar to the conversations that you have had tonight there about making sure that we keep things at the forefront as far as planning, board responsibilities. We've had conversations, and I think a lot of it was spurred through the site visit and just conversations with our site team. I visited with Dr. Douglas on a few different instances about really just being able to get your feedback on how it is that we can provide information and really more of a planning retreat for the board that really encapsulates everything from strategic planning to our strategic enrollment planning to our master's facilities planning, being able to inform the board about what each of these plans include, going through and letting you know what it is that conversations that are happening on campus, how that conversation feeds into the overall planning of deferred maintenance and budget planning, strategic planning. But I think there is merit to, annually, and my recommendation would be that we maybe look at a date here in March, just to be able to have our staff come in and present the various planning documents and just have more of an overall discussion and make sure that you feel comfortable about the processes that are occurring on campus, but you can also provide feedback, within the master's facilities plan or within the strategic planning, not getting into the means to say you need to include this within your strategic plan, or you need to do this on your master's facilities plan instead of what you have planned for this year. But I think it is an informative process there, so you understand what's included, that there is thought that goes into how we're planning for various things on campus. But then also just being able to have, we really haven't done much of that there with the board, but just being able to have a conversation. I say March because that's really in the kind of in the heat of when we're doing a lot of our budget planning and starting to have those conversations on campus. So I think it aligns to a lot of where we're at and where our mindset is at in the spring semester, but provides a venue for you to have feedback and interaction within each of the plans that are involved on campus. So I'd welcome thoughts or opinions on that. And if we want to look at dates, I would say March is kind of a timeline for us to be looking at. If we want to pick dates there now, I think that's good. Or if we want to coordinate on schedules, but thoughts or opinions on having that type of retreat?
I like the idea because I look at it in different aspects. It gives us another tool to evaluate the president.
Mhm.
It gives us an idea of what's going on campus.
Right.
So just to get more information.
Right.
We're the ones that's the responsibility in the end is. The board's who's gonna take the hit if something goes wrong. We say, oh, we didn't know. That's not a very good answer.
For me, it
Mhm.
was about that historically, the deferred maintenance, the information technology, the program changes, that comes from college, the college council or the administration. And as we look at the future and the vision, I think the board needs to be apprised of all of those things that these guys come up with. And then we can, use our plans to mirror or to enhance or to support all of those initiatives. So it's like we're working together instead of in two separate rooms.
Well, and even at that, to me, when it comes to strategic plan and the bigger plans, sometimes we get it piecemeal, this thing at this meeting, this at another. And to have it all consolidated one place just really helps solidify it in my mind and my memory, what the whole picture looks like instead of tidbits here and there. So I like the idea.
I think it would, you think like a 4-hour something? An evening?
You have to move people come in at the times so that they necessarily hear the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think still building it as we talk about, but yeah, I think you would have Craig come in and focus for an hour or set time frame on the master's facilities plan.
Okay.
Be able to open it up, for questions, comments here from the board, then we can move into the strategic plan and strategic enrollment plan. So have some defined parameters of time. I think I think 4 hours gives us time to be able to cover that. We'll provide food so we can be able to have something to keep our mind off of all the learning. But, yeah, I think 4 hours would be similar to what we would have for professional development with the board.
You're looking at sometime in March.
That would be my recommendation, yeah.
So spring break is in
Preferably not
March.
spring break.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll do it for spring break, which is, I'm guessing, the 13th through the 18th.
Yes, yeah,
Correct.
yeah, the weekend.
Okay.
I would prefer it to be after spring break.
Yeah.
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 I got a trip planned every month for a while. I'm a busy girl.
So the 28th might be a good, a good date.
And have the board.
Oh, you
meeting-
guys have HLC, right?
Board meeting the 21st. Then and HLC. So maybe towards the end of that last week of March. We get back on the 28th.
I would do 23rd or 30th. Either Thursday,
Yeah, the 23rd, I'll be at K-Board meetings.
not the 23rd.
The 30th.
We're
Well,
running out of days in March here.
no, because the 30th is the chamber annual banquet. In the evening, if we did it in the evening, which I assume we would.
Yep.
Yeah. Um,
Saturday morning?
mhm.
I'm not opposed to a weekend.
Mhm.
None of this 7 a.m.
Like April 1st. Is that what you're thinking?
Yep.
Which is still part of March. Yeah.
Leftover, the Ides of March? No.
The Ides.
Okay,
April 1st.
yeah,
Does that work?
tentatively.
Kind of
April 1st.
tentatively plan. I know. There'll be nothing foolish we talk about too. So we start, be like 8 to noon. You wanna shoot for that? Nine to 1,
I like the thinking.
Yeah. 9 to 1.
You wouldn't rather have 6, but
Well, we'll kind of tentatively plan that there. If there are things that you see in your calendars after tonight there too, just let us know and we'll evaluate it, but we'll tentatively plan on that and start putting the pieces of that day together. Last thing I have, and then I'll be done, is, just publicly want to thank, Dr. Douglas for her service as chair the last 2 years and, the work you've done to continually guide us and particularly through accreditation visit. So appreciate your service on that end. One thought that I have as we're going through, and I know it wasn't, included as part of tonight, but I think it is important, for the board to maybe look at having a governance chair, a governance liaison, somebody that has oversight and oversees, and I'm springing this on Maryland here right now. But I think the oversight and what it is that you provide and the time that you spend to bring back some thoughtful conversation is important, on policy governance. So my recommendation would maybe to think about adding a position, more of a oversight role on the board side there for a governance officer, somebody that can be that checks and balances and ensure that we're continuing to address, policy governance review timely. But that would be That would be at the board's discretion, just a recommendation I would have. That is all my report.
Would you like to continue in that capacity?
Sure. I would do it anyway. All right, any other questions for President Ruda? Incidental information? Questions there?
We're coming in closer to getting in structures like firefighting.
No. Still advertising right now. We're using adjuncts and using our Garden City Fire Department there to be able to maintain the program, but no new applications on a full-time basis.
Report from Finney County Economic Development.
Okay. Economic Development Corporation does have a contracted retail recruiter who was at a regional meeting. The other recruiters were talking that there's 3 sites in Kansas, great for growth. And Garden City is one of those 3, the other 2 on the other side of the state. We're seeing across the nation as an area to grow. Also, the annual meeting, economic development meeting is next Thursday at 10 a.m. here in the Logan Aviation Room. We'll have our normal monthly meeting first and then start with the annual meeting right after that. So gives our partners an overview what organization has done over the past year and where it's heading. So everyone's invited.
What day did you say, next Thursday?
Thursday, the 26th. Starting at 10 a.m. and then sure, if we have our executive session, we'll go back in the little room and hide again. That's it.
Thank you for continuing. Thank you for a great job.
Jody already has minutes. So.
Okay. Report from GCCC.
I picked up that great big book that they gave us last time we met and took it out of my folder so I had room for this one. And I forgot to get a couple dates. I do know that our next meeting is in conjunction with the Phi Theta Kappa in Junction City again. I think is it the 3rd of March or that week before? I'm sorry I didn't get that. And then our next meeting will be in Dodge City. And I think that's in June. But I wouldn't swear to it because I forgot to look in the big book. I'll have them for you next time.
Yeah, I'll get the dates. I don't.
The meeting in June, can any of us attend?
Oh, yeah.
Just to listen?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Might be interesting for, can't always make it to the farther away ones, but if it's only Dodge, maybe your whole entourage can
Oh,
accompany
my
you.
gosh, that'd be good.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a great job.
Some days better than others. I'll have to get the dates.
All right, report from Faculty Senate. Welcome, Cody.
I'm filling in for Veronica. She lost her voice. Another Scrabble incident, I think is what she said. So I'm Faculty Senate Vice President. Just here to update you guys. Spring semester's begun. We had a meeting. I guess the big thing that we did is Faculty Senate had a meeting with the head coaches to kind of talk about how we can improve communication between faculty and the coaching staff. Just to try and best help our students, things like that. Kind of came up with some ideas both ways to improve communication and just kind of working together for the students. We invited the coaches, or some representatives to start joining us, faculty senate meetings, kind of coming up with a contact sheet for us to share between each other so that we can not just email or call office phones, because just see which each person would rather prefer and go that way. We met as Senate to try to plan all of our semester meetings for the remaining of the semester. Senate's still going through and reviewing all of our procedures for instructional policies, trying to update those, align them to other updated procedures, documents, policies, things like that. We're still planning to review our professional development funding requests, kind of our procedure for that, so that we can have a little bit more application process and go from there.
How did your meeting go with the coach?
It went really well. Was really receptive both ways, just kind of realizing kind of how to meet in the middle with their hours. Faculty is usually more active in the morning than wanting to talk more in the afternoon, and their vice versa, their afternoons practice. And so kind of tearing down that communication wall that we had and see what we need to do to try and help the students a little bit more. But everyone was really receptive to it. Went really well. We all felt like.
Very good.
When we talk about trying to define student success, I think that's an example of catching some of the students that are falling through the cracks. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it definitely helped us. Just kind of also just to set some names to faces for some of the coaches, for both us and them to know who they're talking to and just kind of the best way to approach us and for us to approach them.
Work in progress. Thank you.
And
Any other questions for Cody, or we could do
Lots of questions.
She's
sign
not yelling like
language
he
for
messed up or
Veronica?
anything, so.
She's texted me like 7 things.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Keep trying.
Thanks.
All right. Next agenda item is ownership linkage. Is anything people would like to share? I don't think advisory committees have started yet, obviously.
I was standing in line for my annual dinner or my usual dinner at the basketball game the other night. And the two Hutchinson bus drivers were there, and struck up a conversation with them, and they said to pass on their appreciation for how the buses could access the parking lots and so forth. Said that so many places they go, it's so narrow. Anyway, so I thought I should pass that on, that they really appreciated access. The other thing is, I shared this at mealtime, is that I have the Hutch News on my phone, and they have yet in their additions to mention the men's basketball score, or even that we played a game. The women's was all there.
It was a pretty hot game.
But
I also like to commend all the people that are getting the Buster Award. That I'm impressed with.
Mhm.
I do try to send out a little emails to congratulate each one, so
Good idea.
they
It's good.
know that we're looking and listening to them.
Mhm.
Good idea. Any other things to share? Okay. Thank you. Upcoming calendar events are listed there for your, as a resource.
breakfast in the morning.
Oh, yeah, and they mentioned don't come in the back, go in the front, cause it's at Barron's, not in the back. I think this time
I
and then next time.
That's why I asked last time when it said Barron instead
Yeah.
of Clarion.
Yeah.
Does that mean Brooklyn?
I would like to take this time to thank Marilyn for all of her hard work. It amazes me, well, when I was the vice chair and I would meet with Ryan and Marilyn, it's amazing the things she had looked up, had studied, and you do the same thing for our meetings, and I think that really helps. I just wanted you to know that I, on behalf of the board, appreciate all your efforts.
Oh, thanks. Yes, thank you.
Good job.
She's not going anywhere.
And we haven't stopped her working yet.
Just a point of follow-up there, Dave. So there was a tremendous amount of research that was happening here on your question there regarding banking institutions statute-wise. The answer is no, we don't have anything in our statute that obligates us to that.
Figured she would pass me on the basketball.
It's 59 to 57.
Yeah.
Finally, Finally. All right. Yeah,
Part of the game.
we have 7 minutes and 48 seconds.
And it's a minute ago. Clock's counting out.
Depends who's ahead.
Okay. Board members, please remember to fill out your forms for Jody. The board members' code of conduct, if you need a refresher, is on page 27 in our policy governance books. So appreciate it. Thank you, and I will declare this meeting adjourned. Please go ahead and fill out your board self-assessments and turn them in.